What's up, everyone? This is Joshua T. Berglan, the world's mayor, coming to you from Limbe, Cameroon. And today, I want to have a conversation that may sound like it is about cocoa prices or coffee prices or trade numbers or export terms. But really, this is a conversation about power, community power, economic power, information power, and the kind of power that comes when people finally understand the numbers behind the products they create. Today's episode is called Cocoa, Coffee, and the Hidden Math of African Trade. And I believe this could be one of the most important conversations we have here in Cameroon. Because cocoa and coffee are not just crops. They are not just products. They are not just commodities. They are stories. They are families. They are farms. They are markets. They are transport routes. They are ports. They are exporters. They are global contracts. They are foreign currencies. They are local realities. And somewhere between the farm and the final global price, money moves, value moves, power moves. And most people never get taught how. That is the problem. Because when people do not understand how money moves, they are easier to underpay. When people do not understand how prices are formed, they are easier to confuse. When people do not understand the difference between a farm gate price, a domestic buyer price, a port price, and a global market price, they are easier to separate from the value they helped create. So today, I want to use cocoa and coffee prices as a teaching tool, not as something complicated, not as something reserved only for economists, exporters, bankers, or government officials, but as something farmers, youth, communities, traders, cooperatives, entrepreneurs, and families can understand. Because media should not only entertain, media should educate. Media should reveal the numbers. Media should translate the system. Media should make the invisible visible. And media should help communities understand the value they are already creating. Here in Cameroon, cocoa and coffee matter. They matter to families. They matter to farmers. They matter to local buyers. They matter to transporters. They matter to communities. They matter to the national economy. They matter to Africa's position in global trade. But here's the one question. When cocoa is quoted internationally at one price, why does the farmer experience a different reality? Why does the domestic buyer see another number? Why does the exporter think in another number? Why does the port price tell another story? Why does the global market move in a way that feels disconnected from the farmer's daily life? And why do so few people understand the path from the farm to the buyer, from the buyer to the port, and from the port to the global market? That is what we're going to talk about today. Because the price you hear is not always the price people receive. The global price is not always the local reality. And the number on the market report does not tell the full story unless you understand what is included, what is excluded, who carries the cost, who carries the risk, and who controls the next step. Now, I want to say something clearly. This episode is not about attacking farmers. It is not about attacking buyers. It is not about attacking exporters. It is not about attacking government agencies. It is not about blaming one group of people. This episode is about education. Because without education, communities are forced to react to systems they do not understand. But with education, communities can ask better questions. And when communities ask better questions, they can make better decisions. When they make better decisions, they can negotiate from a stronger position. When they negotiate from a stronger position, they can build ownership. That is the goal. Ownership, not confusion, not dependency, not rumors, not manipulation, ownership. So let's make this simple. When cocoa or coffee moves from the farm into the market, there are different prices at different points. The farmers may sell one at one level, the local buyer may sell at another level. The exporter may calculate costs differently. The port price may include things the farm gate price does not include, and the international price may reflect a global trading environment that is far away from the village, the road, the warehouse, or the farm. This is why two people can talk about the same cocoa and still be talking about different realities. One person is talking about what the farmer received. Another person is talking about what a domestic buyer paid. Another person is talking about what the product is worth after transport, handling, documentation, taxes, storage, port cost, and export preparation. Another person is talking about what the global market says. And another person is talking about what the final product becomes after processing, branding, packaging, shipping, retail, and marketing. Same cocoa, different stages, different cost, different risk, different power, different information, different profits. And if we do not understand those stages, we cannot understand where the money goes. So today, I want to explain three important terms in simple language: CAF, FOB, and DLA. Now, depending on the market report, the agency, the buyer, or the trade context, these terms may be used in specific ways. So do not get lost in the letters. Focus on the concept. These terms are trying to describe value at different points in the trade journey. CAF is often connected to the cost of getting goods to a destination, including certain costs like insurance and freight. In simple language, CAF is not just asking, what is the crop worth? It is asking, what is the crop worth when you include some of the cost of moving it through the trade system? FOB means free on board. Again, let's make it simple. FOB is usually about the value of goods when they are ready to leave through the port, loaded for export, before the next major leg of international shipping. So FOB is not the same as what the farmer receives at the farm. FOB usually includes more steps, more handling, more transportation, more paperwork, more preparation, more cost. And because of that, the number may be higher than what the farmer sees. Now, DLA in local context can refer to the domestic or local arriving pricing, depending on how the market is presenting it. But again, let's keep the idea simple. DLA helps us think about the local market reality before export. What is the value inside the country? What is happening between the farm, the local buyer, the warehouse, the transport routes, and the domestic market? So when someone says the international cocoa price is this, but the farmer says, this is not what was paid, this is not what I was paid, both things can be true because they may not be talking about the same point in the value chain. And this is where education matters. Because if a farmer hears an international price and does not understand the cost between the farm and the port, confusion can happen. But if a buyer uses those costs as an excuse to hide unfair margins, exploitation can happen. Both things matter. There are real costs in trade. Transport is real. Storage is real. Quality control is real. Moisture content is real. Sorting is real. Documentation is real. Taxes and fees may be real. Port handling is real. Currency changes are real. Market volatility is real. Risk is real. But the hidden profit is also real. Unfair pricing is also real. Information imbalance is also real. And that is why communities need financial literacy. Not just reading and writing, not just basic schooling, financial literacy, trade literacy, market literacy, media literacy. Because when people understand the system, they become harder to deceive. This is especially important for young people in Cameroon because many young people see agriculture as something old, something poor, something rural, something to escape. But I want to challenge that. Agriculture is not the past. Agriculture is one of the biggest opportunities of the future, but not if young people are only taught to see farming as labor. They must learn to see farming as business, as data, as branding, as logistics, as media, as technology, as export strategy, as product development, as entrepreneurship, as national power. Cocoa is not just cocoa. Cocoa can become chocolate, cocoa butter, cocoa powder, cosmetics, health products, luxury products, tourism experiences, educational content, documentaries, brand stories, digital marketplaces, community owned products. Coffee is not just coffee. Coffee can become roasted brands, cafes, export relationships, subscription products, cultural storytelling, tourism, training programs, youth entrepreneurship, digital commerce. But if we only sell raw materials without understanding the math, we stay trapped at the lowest level of value. This is the hidden issue. Africa has been told too often to produce more, grow more, harvest more, export more. But production alone is not power. Production without ownership can become exhaustion. Production without pricing knowledge can become exploitation. Production without processing can limit wealth. Production without branding can make the producer replaceable. Production without media can make the origin invisible. Production without data can make the community powerless. So the question is not only how much cocoa did we grow, the question is how much value did we keep? How much was processed locally? How much was branded locally? How much was sold through local companies? How much data stayed with the community? How much knowledge stayed with the youth? How much of the profit returned to the people closest to the land? How many farmers understood the price before they accepted the deal? How many communities knew the difference between the farm price and the export price? How many young entrepreneurs saw opportunity in the gap? The gap is important because the gap between the farm price and the global price is not just a number. It is a story. It tells us where the costs are. It tells us where the power is. It tells us where the knowledge is. It tells us where the ownership is missing. And it tells us where opportunities can be built. Now imagine if every farming community had access to simple weekly market education. Imagine if a local radio, podcast, WhatsApp groups, YouTube channels, community media hubs, schools, churches, cooperatives, and training centers were teaching cocoa and coffee prices in plain language. Imagine if every week farmers and youth could hear, this is the current cocoa price. This is the current coffee price. This is what the international market is doing. This is what the domestic price means. This is what FOB means. This is what CAF means. This is what DLA means. This is how transport affects that number. This is how quality affects the number. This is how moisture affects the number. This is how processing changes the value. This is where the opportunity is. That would change everything, because when people understand the numbers, they stop being intimidated by the market. They stop thinking trade is only for people in offices. They stop believing the economy is something that happens to them. They begin to understand that the economy is something they participate in, and eventually something they can help shape. That is community power. Community power is not just shouting. Community power is understanding. Community power is organization. Community power is information. Community power is negotiation. Community power is ownership. Community power is young people learning the language of markets before someone else uses that language against them. This is why media matters, because a market report sitting on a government website is not enough. A price board in an office is not enough. A technical document that most people cannot understand is not enough. Information only becomes power when people can access it, understand it, use it, and share it. That is where media becomes financial literacy. That is where media becomes trade education. That is where media becomes community infrastructure. That is where media becomes protection. Because a farmer who understands pricing is harder to cheat. A cooperative that understands markets is harder to manipulate. A young entrepreneur who understands value chains is more likely to build a business. A community that understands where the money moves can organize around an opportunity. And let's be honest, for too long, too many African communities have been closest to the raw material, but furthest from the information. Closest to the crop, but furthest from the contract. Closest to the labor, but furthest from the pricing power. Closest to the origin, but furthest from the brand. Closest to the value, but furthest from the wealth. That must change. And it can change, but it starts with making the hidden math visible. Let me say that again. We have to make the hidden math visible, because when the math stays hidden, the community stays dependent. When the math becomes visible, the community becomes strategic. This is why I believe cocoa and coffee pricing should be taught in schools. It should be taught in agriculture programs. It should be discussed in cooperatives. It should be explained on radio. It should be broken down on podcast. It should be shared on WhatsApp. It should be visualized on posters. It should be explained in all the local languages. It should be used to teach entrepreneurship. It should be used to teach negotiation. It should be used to teach media. It should be used to teach ownership. Because this is not just about cocoa. This is not just about coffee. This is about the future of Cameroon. If Cameroon's youth can understand how cocoa moves from farm to global market, they can understand trade. If they can understand trade, they can understand business. If they can understand business, they can create companies. If they can create companies, they can create jobs. If they can create jobs, they can strengthen communities. If they can strengthen communities, they can help build a future that does not depend on waiting for outside rescue. That is the bigger vision. Not charity, capacity. Not dependency, understanding. Not confusion, ownership. Now, I want to speak directly to the farmers, the cocoa farmers, to the coffee farmers, to the mothers and fathers who work the land, to the young people who may not yet see the opportunity in what their families have been doing for generations. Your work has value. Your crop has value. Your knowledge has value. Your timing has value. Your land has value. Your story has value. The value that is not understood can be underpaid. Value that is not organized can be weakened. Value that is not documented can be ignored. Value that is not branded can be replaced. Value that is not protected can be extracted. So learn the numbers, ask questions, understand the terms, know the price before you sell, understand the quality of what you produce, organize with others, document your process, tell your story, teach your children the business side of the farm. Do not let anyone make you believe agriculture is small. Agriculture feeds the world. Agriculture moves markets. Agriculture builds nations. but only when the people closest to the land are also connected to the knowledge, the tools, the platforms, and the ownership. And to the young people listening, you do not have to abandon agriculture to be modern. You can modernize agriculture. You can bring media to agriculture. You can bring AI to agriculture. You can bring websites to cooperatives. You can bring digital marketplaces to local products. You can bring storytelling to cocoa and coffee. You can bring video education to farmers. You can bring price explainers to your community. You can bring transparency to trade. You can build brands from what already exists around you. The future is not only in cities. The future is also in the soil. The future is in the farm. The future is in the village. The future is in the market. The future is in the young person with the phone who realizes that media can help explain value, protect value, and multiply value. That is why this matters so much to me. Because I do not see media as just cameras and microphones. I see media as infrastructure. I see media as education. I see media as protection. I see media as dignity. I see media as a bridge between the people who create value and the world that benefits from it. And when media is used correctly, it can help a farmer understand the market. It can help a cooperative build trust. It can help a buyer be more transparent. It can help a young entrepreneur identify opportunity. It can help a community negotiate better. It can help a nation see the wealth that has been hiding in plain sight. So let us bring this back to the title, Cocoa, Coffee, and the Hidden Math of African Trade. The math does not have to stay hidden. The language does not have to stay confusing. The reports do not have to stay locked away from the people who need them most. The farmer should not be the last to know what their crop is worth. The youth should not grow up disconnected from the business of their own land. The community should not be close to the product but far from the power. We can change this. We can teach it. We can translate it. We can film it. We can record it. We can post it. We can build platforms around it. We can turn price reports into community education. We can turn market confusion into market literacy. We can turn cocoa prices into community power. That is the mission. From cocoa prices to community power. From coffee prices to community education. From hidden math to visible opportunity. From raw production to informed ownership, from being told the price to understanding the value. And that is where I believe Cameroon can lead. Because Cameroon has the land. Cameroon has the farmers. Cameroon has the youth. Cameroon has the products. Cameroon has the creativity. Cameroon has the story. Now the question is, can Cameroon build the media, education, processing, branding, and ownership systems that help more of that value stay with the people who create it? I believe that answer is yes, but it begins with information. It begins with education. It begins with making the hidden math visible. So today, I want to challenge everyone listening. If you are a farmer, learn the pricing language. If you are a student, study the value chain. If you are a teacher, explain trade in simple terms. If you are a media creator, make educational content about local markets. If you are a cooperative leader, teach your members what the prices mean. If you are a buyer, be transparent. If you are a policymaker, make price education accessible. If you are an entrepreneur, look for the gaps where value is being lost. If you are a community leader, turn information into organization. Because information becomes power when it becomes shared understanding. And shared understanding becomes community power when people act together. So may we build a future where the farmer understands the market. May we build a future where the youth understand the value chain. May we build a future where the communities are not excluded from the numbers that shape their lives. May we build a future where cocoa and coffee are not only exported as raw commodities, but used as tools for education, ownership, entrepreneurship, and national development. May we build a future where African trade is no longer hidden from African communities. This is Joshua T. Berglan, the world's mayor, coming to you from Limbe, Cameroon, and this has been the World's Mayor Experience. Today's message is simple. The price is not just a number. The price is a lesson. The value chain is not just economics. It is a map of power. And when communities understand the hidden math, they can begin to build a future where they are not just producers, they are owners. God bless Cameroon, God bless Africa, God bless the farmers, God bless the traders, God bless the youth, and God bless every community ready to turn information into power.